Makes you wanna go. Makes you wanna go. Na 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 na. Makes you wanna go.
Hey, 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 Mickey G, how are you
Hey,
today?
I'm great. It's a beautiful day out there. It's good.
It's such a beautiful day.
How are
Yes,
you?
indeed. I am good. Thank you so much for asking, and thank you for joining me
You're
again. I
welcome.
appreciate you very much.
Okay.
Everybody, we have an interesting topic, another one, and it is called Why is Being Single Considered a Bad Thing? Now, the presumption that being single is a bad thing often stems from societal norms and cultural narratives that prioritize romantic relationships as a primary marker of happiness and success. Media traditions and even family expectations often promote the idea that being in a partnership is the ultimate goal, equating it with stability, fulfillment, and social acceptance. The mindset can overlook many benefits of being single, such as independence, self discovery, and the freedom to prioritize personal goals and passions. I will pause with that and see what you think about it. And this is a personal issue for me because I have been single for a long time. And other people that I know have too, but usually guys will say, "What's wrong with you?" As if there's something wrong with me or wrong with being single. So I had to get my co host's opinion on that. What do you think about that?
I think people are single for different reasons. And who are we to judge why? If something's wrong with them, or they're not attractive, or they run people away. That's not necessarily true. Some people choose to be by themselves, and some people want to take their time, and they don't want to be in a relationship because of past experiences, past hurts. And some people just they've been there, done that, and they're not
You
interested
know
in
what,
being there.
my friend? You mentioned every reason that I still am, right? So, because of past experiences, I
Yes,
want to take my time, and I probably take too much time, but that's because of my
right,
past experiences.
right,
Yeah.
right, right.
I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No,
I
you're
just had to
good.
say that.
You're good. You just jump right in. So,
Yeah.
but I have a parent who's lost a spouse, and people think that they're supposed to match make them because they need to be with someone. They're alone. They're okay with it. They've done marriage for almost 60 years. They're okay with it. They miss their spouse, and that's the only spouse for them. So trying to match them up with someone, that's not what they want. So people assume a lot of times that because you're apart from someone and you don't have someone, they've got to make that right because there's something wrong with it. And there's nothing wrong with being single by choice, or even if it's not by choice, it is what it is.
And even when you're someone that 60 years is my age, so
Mhm.
he was probably married longer than I am. Oh, but my point to that is some of us that haven't been,
Right.
we choose to stay single for a multitude of reasons, like my co-host mentioned, and that it's best to do that until the right person and you find each other. And I'm not going to say he finds her or she finds him, but they find each other. However, that journey may lead to, it is best to stay single unless you're absolutely sure that you found your forever person.
Right.
And it's nothing wrong with that, like Mickey G said. You know, um, people ignore the fact, I was trying to find the right words to say, that happiness and fulfillment comes from within, Mickey G. It doesn't come from whether you have a. Now, people, don't get me wrong. I love men, okay,
Mhm.
and I am talking to one,
Yeah.
but the topic is there something wrong with people
Right.
that choose to remain single? And that's what we're focusing on.
Right.
And happiness doesn't come from another human being making you happy. You
Right.
have to already be happy
Right.
with who you are within yourself before you can even make the other person happy, right? So I was searching for the words, but what I'm trying to say is that the happiness comes and the fulfillment comes from within, not
Right.
solely from an external relationship. You
Right.
know,
Right.
challenging. Go ahead. You want to add on that? Go right ahead.
Yes, I was just thinking that I used to say this to a significant other, or I would talk to someone and say, I don't want them to be my life. I just want them to accentuate my life because I
Right,
already have
Mickey.
a life. So
Hmm.
if I put all my happiness in your hands, then you
Right.
control my happiness. So if I'm already happy, I control my happiness because no one can control my emotions. I choose to feel the way I feel. No one can make me happy, make me angry, make me, they can't make me do anything. That's how I choose to respond to them is up to me. So, no, that I think having a significant other is an option. It's not a
Hmm.
requirement.
Right. And Mickey, you said something, the reason I set up, because I didn't want to forget it. You
Yes.
said that putting all of your eggs into one basket, that's not the verbiage you use, but everything into one person is not good. You tend to lose yourself, which I have said many times I did that. The show that was airing today talked about that. And I mentioned how the only person that was happy was the person controlling me.
Right.
And I was young, but we didn't, as young ladies, you learn as you grow older, the do's and the don'ts and things like that. But I didn't realize then that I was morphing into what he wanted me to be and not able to do the things that I wanted to do, which made him happy, but not myself. And we will finish this conversation when we come back from this break.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for coming back. So, as I was saying, challenging these assumptions allows people to celebrate singleness as a valid and empowering life choice. My co host mentioned that it's not a requirement, it is a choice. She took the words right out of my mouth. Rather than viewing it as a gap or deficiency, it's a choice that people make until they are able to find the right person. And being single and being in a relationship but not married are distinct experiences, though they can share some similarities depending on personal values and circumstances. And I'm going to break this down for you. I have been
Okay.
single and I have been married, and I am now single again. And my ex husband is deceased. So is my co-host. She's in a relationship. I'm in one, not as solidified probably as hers, but we're still at this present time both single. Now I've been single a lot longer than she has,
Right.
but being single allows you to have independence. You have full autonomy over your decisions, time, and priority. And Mickey G, you just stop me if you want to add something to it. But the longer you are single, the more independent you become. And that does make it harder, maybe, for you to compromise uh, if and when you do find someone that you might want to spend time with. Kind of what I'm struggling with right now. So, just to
Yeah.
be honest, and I've talked
Yeah.
to you about that, Mickey.
Okay.
You want
Yeah.
to elaborate before I go further?
Oh, there's a couple of things. And I've heard that people get set in their ways. And once they get set in their ways, there's not much room for flexibility for another person. I've heard that. I can't say that as a fact. I've not gone through that, but I do. I have heard, and it makes sense to me that a person would be set in the way they do things, and there's reasons why they set these parameters in place. The other thing was for for myself. Once my marriage, once my marriage ended, I lived by myself for the first time since college, and I had not done that. The other times I was living with my children, but just me by myself, I loved it. I
Mm-hmm.
thought I can get up when I want to, go to bed when I want to, eat when I want to, buy what I want to,
Cook when I want
cook what I
to.
want to. If I don't want to cook, I'm not cooking. If I
Right.
if I want to stay up to 4 o'clock in the morning, okay, no one's going to
Mm-hmm.
stop me. So it was
Right.
great. I can come and go and not have to check with anyone. Hey, I'm going here. I'm going there. It was great, but I did not remain. I did not remain single in that way, but legally single. But at that point, I loved it. So it was nothing. It was nothing wrong with it. It was good.
Right. Exactly. And you were saying how, well, I forgot the point you were making, but let's go further. Self focusing. It's time to explore your personal goals. You did mention that, your passions, and being able to do what you want to do when you want to do it, how you want to do it, where you want to do it, and all that kind of thing. And I got my thought back. Uh, being set in your own way can happen by being single for a long time, or some
Mhm.
people are already set in their way before they ever get married. So
Right.
it calls for compromise. That's the point I was trying to remember. When
Mhm.
you're set in your own ways, which probably a lot of us are, you have to go into a relationship being able to compromise.
Right.
Not compromise your whole self like some of us has done before, but to compromise to include somebody else into your space
Right.
and into your activities of daily living, and to be inclusive and not excluded from your life. So I wanted to make that point because you're right. People do get stuck in their ways, but then when you have to consider that you do have to include the other person in your daily life and
Right.
compromise so that you both get fulfillment out of it. Now, back to my other point. It's time to explore your personal goals when you're single. When I became single is when I went back to school. I wanted to be a realtor, but nope, my parents said be a nurse. So I went to be a nurse. And then when I found myself single again, guess what I did? I went back to school and became a realtor. So I've been a realtor now for 20 years. So look at it that way. Being single allows you to be able to go after those passions and self growth without needing to account for anybody else's needs, because when I was married, my husband didn't want me to do it. And later on I was able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You have autonomy. And, for me, when my first marriage ended and I had 4 little children, I had to account to those people. Those 4 little people. I
Mhm.
I couldn't just my life had to be theirs. And
Yes.
so later on in life, when I lost my second husband, my life became mine because my children were adults. And so it also depends on the stage of life that you're at and what's happening in your life at the time and who you're accountable to. I could,
Mhm.
after that second marriage ended, I could go to the movies, I can go out of town, I go on a cruise. It was just exciting to me because I didn't have to check in with someone. Now, if that's what you want to do, that's a lovely thing. But at that stage, I didn't want to. I didn't have to,
Right.
and I didn't.
Right. Me either. And when you're single, there's no expectation to compromise. But when you date or get in a relationship, there is an expectation to
Right,
compromise
right,
and coordinate with someone else on a deeper, more rational level.
yes,
That is what it should be expected for anybody that is in a relationship. Dating is different to me than being in a relationship. So I wanted to make that point. Some people think if they go out with you on 1 or 2 dates, you're in a relationship. But you're not in a relationship until you mutually agree that you're in a relationship.
right, right, right? Because
Yes.
some people in a relationship, but they don't realize you're not in a relationship with
Right.
them.
Right.
That's a whole
Right.
other show.
That, that can lead to some domestic abuse situations too, right?
Often,
But when you're single, you're empowered to come and go and do whatever you want. There is not a sense of loneliness because you have other people in your lives. You have relatives, you have parents, maybe friends, maybe sister friends.
yeah,
Being single doesn't mean that you're lonely. And so many people think that uh, being single means that, oh, you're just lonely. No, it depends on your social connections
yeah,
and your support system, whether or not you are lonely. Those are two different things.
that's true. True.
And guess what? We're going to
What?
take a quick break, but when we come back, we are going to talk about being in a relationship but not married, the difference.
All right.
We'll be right back.
Yeah.
All right, everybody, thank you for returning to Gab with Golden Bronze. So, you know what? We talked about being single, we talked about it not being taboo, we talked about um, well, we're going to talk about being in a relationship but not married. So you're dating, um, and you're not married yet. You share a connection. You're building an emotional bond with someone, sharing their life that way, someone sharing their life experience, and possibly planning for a future together. Being in a relationship should, if it's a serious relationship, should be like dating with potential to be married. And to me, I want to say what I think the difference is. So you can be in a relationship. Some people do this, not everybody, but you're just filling the void or bridging the gap until that right person comes along because you don't want to be single. You're afraid to be by yourself. And you're actually doing something that's unfair to the person that you're sharing that connection with if you are just bridging the gap. But if you are in a relationship with the potential to be married, then you're doing a justification to the person whose time you're using and spending and sharing. So, what do you think about that, Nikki?
Well, I don't think you should use people as crash test dummies. You know, trial and error on them, bleed emotionally on them, and all those kinds of things. I I think that people can go on dates. People can spend time with multiple people without a serious commitment. You just want to spend time with someone. Let's go to lunch. There's this concert happening. Do you want to go with me? That doesn't mean you're in a relationship with someone. It doesn't mean you're committed to that person. It just means that you're sharing time with them. Now, at some point, if that connection becomes stronger or another one becomes stronger, you release those people and then you pursue a more one-on-one connection with someone if you both agree, I think this is going to go someplace. What do you think about dating seriously, just you and me? And then when you agree, you can build on that foundation and decide what your foundation is going to look like and how you build on that.
And so I agree with you 100%. I think that is the latter that you mentioned is dating with potential.
Yeah,
And that is an intimate relationship that is a deep connection between two individuals
right,
characterized by emotional intimacy, affection, and often a desire for a final partnership or companionship. So, like your potential is to be in a monogamous, one-on-one, intimate relationship. And intimacy is not sexual, people.
right,
Intimacy is the heart. Okay,
right.
and while that specific dynamic of a intimate relationship can vary widely, it typically includes a lot of elements. And I wanted to talk about some of the key characteristics of intimate relationships, but I want to give you a chance to comment on that particular part if you would like to.
I'll just say briefly, I agree on the intimacy. When you tell people, we have an intimate relationship, their mind automatically goes to sex, and that's not. Uh,
Right.
there is sexual intimacy, but it doesn't have to include that. It's into my heart that you connect with. We have like minds. We build each other up. I'm vulnerable with you. You're vulnerable with me, and that's the type of intimacy. Even holding hands, rubbing shoulders, arm around waist, having conversations, looking eye to eye. That's intimacy. And when people don't trust you, it's hard for them to look you in the eye. It's hard for them
Right.
to hold your hand and be vulnerable or claim you in front of others. And so, you know, intimacy is, I think that's the most important part of a relationship because without that, the sexual part is only exercise.
Right. And that's why I made that point to say it's the heart,
Right,
because people think intimacy, just as I mentioned and you mentioned, they think it's physical.
right, right,
Physical intimacy is not always sexual either. There's
right.
a difference in that, right?
Yeah,
But that emotional intimacy that we're talking about is a strong bond where both partners feel safe, like you said,
right,
sharing their thoughts and feelings and vulnerabilities and future aspirations.
right,
Becoming emotionally intimate with someone can let you know whether or not that's someone that you might even want to go to the next level with. That's the first step in a relationship, is building emotional intimacy. So you've
yeah,
already addressed that. The next thing after you build that emotional intimacy, which could last a year, 6 months, 3 months for some people, I don't move that fast, two
yeah,
years or whatever, then comes the physical intimacy. Now, to me, you have to have the emotional before the physical for the
right.
physical to be good. Okay?
Mhm,
Good, good.
mhm.
You got to have
Yeah,
that emotional first.
yeah,
Me, there cannot be any physical if we haven't passed the emotional stage of the relationship. If I am not emotionally attached to someone, have that emotional intimacy, there can be no physical. Now, this is me. This is not the
right,
world and people in general. This is me. So, acts of physical connection, such as holding hands, as you mentioned,
right,
hugging, kissing, or sexual intimacy. Remember, I said physical intimacy is
right,
different than
right,
sexual intimacy.
right,
Often distinguish romantic relationships from other types of relationships. You can have a totally physical relationship and there be no emotional or physical intimacy. I
right,
can't get to that part without step one and two. But
right.
what are your thoughts about that?
I think I think physical connection has become cheapened in this society in this day and time. That's the first thing you do. If a man takes you out to dinner, well, you owe him your body. Nope, that's not true. That's not true. And so it's that thing has been cheapened when it should be something that is decided upon in time as your emotions connect, as you decide, okay, I think this is the time to take it to the next level. Not because you bought me a
Exactly.
lobster dinner. That is not that pay to play. There's a profession for that.
Girl,
Yeah.
that's what I say when I hear these dudes say, she likes to do that to me. We'll be right back.
How to pay the bills.
Yay! Thank you for coming back. So, um, I was saying that people, guys, not all, and
Mhm.
I get drug under the rug for saying men this and men that.
Yeah.
Like, hit dogs holler, right? And they all holler at me. I'm speaking in general, and I
Right.
always have to give these disclaimers.
Right.
But I see a lot of men saying that if they take you to an expensive restaurant, you got to give them something from your body. And to me, that's low key prostitution. I can pay for my own meal, right? But you made that point. Taking me out to dinner doesn't mean that you get to bed me down. Those are conversations that women need to learn to have before they meet somebody at a restaurant for dinner. Or if you want to meet that person and they think that that's what the benefit is that they get for taking you to dinner, make it clear. You pay for your own meal and have the conversation with them at dinner. But I already know from the proposal, that's not somebody I want to be my partner if he expects something for dinner. But for those of you that aren't certain about it, pay for your own meal, go out to dinner, and get to know him before you get to that point. But in a relationship, it takes emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, mutual care, a deep sense of concern for each other's well-being, basic stuff. You know, you actually are mutually concerned about each other's well-being and happiness, and it's often demonstrated through acts of support, kindness, and just mere simple encouragement. You
Right.
know, something's
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Go
had
ahead.
something going on too, but you don't want to do a quid pro quo, because he did this, then I do that. And the other part of it, oh, something you're saying at the end. Oh, I know. When you're in a relationship, I often say lust takes, love gives. So when you want to love someone, you think, how can I make their life better? What can I do
Mhm.
for them to brighten their day? How can I encourage them? What gift can I buy for them? Etc. You're thinking about the other person. You're not thinking about yourself. So if you're not loving someone, but you might be lusting for them, say, they're pretty fine. I
There is
can
a
do
difference,
that.
sweetheart.
Look at those curves, look at those shoulders, look at this and that. I can enjoy that person. So it's
Yeah,
about yourself. It's not about
right.
that person. And there is a difference.
Valid point. Yep. People need to have these conversations, Mickey. Um, I would say on the first date, because I mean, um, I'm not wasting my time with somebody that just wants to bed me down and they don't want to get to know me and all the things that you're talking about. I think those are conversations that need to be had and mutual agreements need to be understood about the exclusivity of the relationship, the boundaries that each one of you have set for yourself, your own personal boundaries
Right.
to make sure that that person is not someone that's going to consistently cross your boundaries and expect for you to be okay with it. You need to have conversations about a future of a relationship, whether or not they even want one. Because if you're dating with potential, why would you date someone who's already told you that they don't even want a future permanent one-on-one relationship with anybody?
Yeah.
So doing all of this, uh, uh, let you know whether or not you guys even differ on opinions or even differ as far as what you want from each
Mhm.
other
Right.
out of that relationship. It's imperative to have that and to have a desire to align with people with the same aspects of life that you have, such as spending time together. Talk about that. How much time do you think is too much or is enough? Or, sometimes we can align ourselves with needy people. They need way more than we can give, and that comes from their insecurities and stuff like that. Or even with people that you feel don't give you enough of the time that you need. All right, let me make this point. Making future plans and building a partnership together. Make sure you're on the same page. And I want to say to you all that I didn't get to go through everything because I'm kind of gabby. That's why I call this Gab with Golden Brothers. Gab means talk. And my grandfather used to call me Victrola because once you wind me up, I keep going. I want to thank you all so much for stopping by to listen and watch Gab with Golden Bronze today. We really do appreciate it. We always have interesting topics. We have interesting points of view. We have interesting guests. So come by tomorrow and see what we're gabbing about. We really do appreciate your being here. Thank you so much. Come back again. I love it.